Welcome to the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. That is RT Young. Good to see you again. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, head to InsideTexas.com. Use that first link in our description or use that QR code at the top left of the screen. 50% off gets you the Ultimate Fan Bundle. That's Inside Texas, that's On3, and that's Rivals as we get closer and closer to the season. Come talk about it with us over at Inside Texas. Lots of recruiting going on right now, but there's some team stuff to talk about too. And RT, our guy Eric Naleen, earlier today, something we had, I guess, hinted at in one case, and then this brought to light in a different case he posted about this morning. Some changes in the defensive secondary. Kobe Black, someone who ended his season, I'd say, with a flourish with the interception against Texas A&M. Very, very highly ranked cornerback in the, what would it be, the 2024 class, I believe it was, maybe the 23 class. Either way, someone who's larger framed, 6'2", probably pushing 200 pounds, played corner, contended with Jalen Gilbo for a starting spot last year, didn't end up getting it. But now, after doing some cross-training, he's moved full-time to safety. And I think that provides a little bit of a, not only a pressure release valve for the logjam at cornerback, but it gives you some coverage ability at the safety position as well.
Yeah, I really like this move, Joe. I remember the first time I saw Kobe Black trot onto the field. It was actually the Vanderbilt game in Nashville 2 years ago, where he ended up actually at the end of the game getting a pick six that was called back. Can't remember, Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins.
I remember that too.
They did a lot of other great things for the Longhorns, so we won't hold that against them for getting that penalized and that pick six called back. But it was earlier in that game, he trotted onto the field, and he hadn't played that much up to that point in the 2024 season. And I remember, when you see a new number go onto the field, you're not always thinking like, oh, I'm aware of who that freshman is. I remember thinking, number 6, what outside linebacker is that? Because that guy is massive. And it really goes back to a lot of the questions when he was coming out of Waco, when he's being recruited as a highly touted recruit, that is this guy almost too big for corner? Is he going to have to slide into safety at some point? And I think this is the perfect role for him because he showed some playmaking chops last year that I didn't really think that he had. He showed that in the Texas A&M game, had a huge game otherwise, despite that, or along with that late interception. So I think he fits the bill of the prototypical big SEC Will Muschamp safety. And obviously you have Derek Williams coming off of injury. Jonah Williams that Eric wrote about is an August wild card. We don't know what we're going to get from Jonah Williams as far as it comes to football this year. So I like having just another blue chip in that room with Jelani McDonald, with Derek Williams, with Jordan Johnson-Rebel. And that room's going to pack a punch. That's a lot of heavy hitters and hard-hitting dudes back there.
Yeah, and it brings coverage ability, as we mentioned. And I think some of the things that Ian even has written about is like, look, throw as many coverage-capable guys onto the field at one time. That definitely helps in that regard with Kobe Black. And, doesn't mean his career at corner is through, but when you have players like Bo Masco, the option with Grayson Littleton, you have players like Cade Phillips, you're going to have Samari Matthews contending for playing time. You're going to have got someone like Warren Roberson also contending for playing time. And then sooner or later, John Meredith's going to show up to campus. This helps relieve a little bit of that logjam, maybe at the cornerback position that you already knew was going to be talented with Masco and Phillips probably leading the way. And at this rate, because Jonah is the unknown with his shoulder, you've got you've got Jonah. Man, I got it this time. You have Jelani McDonald. You have Derek Williams. That seems to be your top two. And then after that, you were a little bit, you didn't exactly know what you had as far as on-field product with Jordan Johnson-Rebel, just because he hasn't had as much of an opportunity. Same thing kind of goes with anybody else in that class, or in that position room, people like Torrey Davis, things like that. We're talking about true freshmen here. Having someone like Kobe Black, who's experienced, who understands some of these coverages, because I don't think there's going to be a significant, just super duper overhaul in what they do coverage wise between this year and previous years, even with Muschamp, I think is going to help Kobe Black. It's still learning a new spot all the same, and it's something that he seems predisposed to. He's got a big frame. He's got the ability to come play some hits, and we saw him play some really good coverage late in the Texas A&M game. When we look at the other position switch, Xavier Filsaime playing star. I know we've talked about with Will Muschamp defenses and even with some Pete Kwiatkowski defenses, when they would go single high, sometimes if you were at safety, you'd have to rotate. You'd have to come down. And Xavier Filsaime, as I look it up, he was playing some slot corner or star last year. Of his 293 defensive snaps, most of them were at safety positions, but he did get 63 opportunities to play some slot corner, including 3 double-digit games. One was Vanderbilt, one was Oklahoma, and one was San Jose State. He's always had the athleticism, and I feel like this is going to make things a little bit easier for him because we've known since his time at Texas started that sometimes processing wasn't his strength. And if you're playing slot corner, yeah, it's a position that asks a lot of you. But if you're able to man up athletically, going to take you a long way in playing that role successfully.
That was my first reaction, I think, about my high school fellow McNeil Maverick, Aaron Williams, being able to play star or nickel as a true freshman in the Will Muschamp defense. And he was obviously a very smart player in his own right, but I think it was just how do we get this really athletic kid on the field as soon as possible and just allow him to use his natural athleticism and playmaking instincts without throwing the kitchen sink at him and make him diagnose everything. And I hope that's the case with Xavier Filsaime. Obviously, he's not going to be starting right off the bat. It's going to be him coming in and playing in limited spots, maybe in blowouts, things like that. But I think with a guy like that, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but didn't Filsaime actually come to football a little bit late?
I believe so. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
And I think he was a 5-star because he's obviously so athletic. But I think you want a guy like that closer to the line of scrimmage, just able to, as he's working out those more complex football math problems and things like that, and having to diagnose what the offense is doing pre-snap, those things that Michael Taft was just brilliant at his last couple of years at Texas. If a guy is more raw and they're trying to still learn how to play corner or safety or just figure out the secondary in general, just get that guy close to the football and have them read and react and make plays. So I like that move because I think it'll maybe solve some of the diagnosis issues that were keeping Filsaime off the field up until this point. So I'm excited about this one.
This also isn't a position where you need to dedicate a ton of numbers. There's only one on at a time. And Grayson Littleton's done a great job at that over the past, 13 games. To me, what it says is the Bo Masco experiment idea at star is probably over. He's going to be playing that outside corner position. And we saw during the spring, Will Muschamp was working with 3 guys at that spot. Most of the time it was Littleton, Mack, and then Masco. But if you add Filsaime there, it gets you the numbers you want. Again, you already had that pressure release with Kobe Black going to safety. So one guy coming in and playing in that actual corner spot and then dedicating someone here to the star spot makes everything make sense. And I think it pairs skill sets with positions in a way that are more conducive in Will Muschamp's defense. I think it would have been fine in PKs. He got some opportunities, but I think this is going to work pretty darn well for both.
What do you think, Joe, about Littleton as a star in Muschamp's defense? Obviously, we saw amazing things from Littleton last year, but I guess I just, I'm not saying this off any intel or anything. I just almost keep waiting for, at some point, Littleton to be moved to corner because, I don't know, he just maybe doesn't seem like the prototypical star in Muschamp's defense, comparing it to the guys who previously played there.
Yeah, I think when you look at the offenses that Texas is going to face this season, you're going to go up against some very, very different looking passing attacks. You'll have Tennessee, you'll have Ohio State, you're going to have Mississippi State again, you'll have Florida, you'll have LSU, and you're going to have A&M, like all the different passing attacks. And I think that's the real emphasis. You're seeing so many different passing games. I feel like you're going to want a coverage guy out there. And I also think that in the form of the Will Muschamp defense, you're looking for coverage. I think that's what you want at that spot more than anything else. I think that's what again, it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. It's just some different preferences on defense for Muschamp compared to maybe what PK was doing. But I think you want that heady player who can play coverage and can understand what routes to take up the field and what routes to stay, flat-footed on at that spot. I don't think you're kind of looking for the linebacker-ish guy this year because you're playing such a variety of passing offenses that you just want somebody out there that opponents have to respect. And they can't just pick on as far as like, oh, that's it. That's the guy. That's where we're going to keep going at. And he's already there. Like he already has played that spot. I think that's really valuable. I know we all saw Jahdae Barron do so well moving out from that spot. But I just think with Grayson Littleton, he's at a point so much earlier in his career than where Barron was that if you can get a plus at that position and then you got Bo Masco and then you have Cade Phillips, like those are some rangy corners who are pretty sticky in coverage. And I feel like that's what we're going to end up seeing from Texas a lot this year.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, hit one more topic. Got to show some love to our sponsor. That is David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
So, the college football video game, EA College Football 27, is coming out soon. I've actually been playing a lot of 26 lately. It's kind of been my late night thing I do before I head to bed. Having fun with that. But they're releasing some small snippets over the course of this next week about different details in the game. Today, the one they released was toughest places to play. If you play college football 25 and 26, you know that you can get your routes messed up. You can get a lot of wide receivers running the wrong direction. You can get false starts and things like that. And the unfortunate part of this is that it's basically, what's their criteria? Well, what EA Sports says is the toughest. And I think last year, Kyle Field was number one, which, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be too anti-A&M on that front, but it has not proven to be the most difficult place to win, even though it is a difficult place to play. But Tiger Stadium gets the number one nod, and Texas has to face 3 of the top 10 in Tiger Stadium, Neyland Stadium at 8, and Kyle Field at 10. The Longhorns checked in at number 13. I think that's around where they ended up last year. And overall, I think we've seen Texas make DKR a tough place to play because, like all these stadiums, it's a combination of a good environment and then a good team on the field that environment is supporting.
That's the direction I was going to go, Joe. I think a lot of this, as much as I love the pageantry of college football, I think a lot of this is frankly overrated because I think, you remember Texas going into Bryant-Denny Stadium in 2023, and how many home games have they won at that point? 50?
A lot. Yeah,
like
a lot. Everyone since the 2019 LSU team came in there and beat them.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, or they were something, it was something like 55-1 in their last, 56 games. Something, I mean, some ridiculous streak. You know why they were that good? Was it because Dixieland Delight and because it was the girls with the poles that they twirl around and stuff like that and the pom-poms? No, it was because Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide were really freaking good. in the 2010s, in the 2020s. And I think that is the biggest reason why places become synonymous with really tough home field advantage. I think a lot of times if there's a place like Penn State or A&M, they almost get associated more with quirks than they do like this place actually being really hard to play. I think Penn State's whiteout is really cool. I'm glad they do it. It's cool to look at on TV when I want to watch a Penn State game. In A&M has the towels and the guys in white and the cute fluffy dog. But besides that, until A&M is really regularly contending for national championships, it's not going to be this insurmountable place to play, because college offenses and teams have really figured out ways to win on the road. I think offenses are now so variable, and it's the game. Passing attacks aren't so dumbed down in the ways that they were in the 90s and early 2000s, to where I think the road can make a lot of difference. I think in all sports, college football included, I think the home fields are becoming less relevant, because I think now in the NBA you have so much 3-point shooting variance. In the college football and the NFL in general, places are a little bit less weather dependent. You have a lot more domes in the NFL, and then offenses are also way more sophisticated. And and it's harder to play defense than it used to be. And Bill Simmons was actually talking about this earlier. Like, I know in the NBA, you're seeing less correlation with refs and home crowds than you ever were before. And I'm sure that there's something that you could look at with that in college football too, as review has come into play, where more often than not, even though refs can be incompetent at times, they have that thing in their back pocket, to where they're probably less intimidated by home crowds than they used to be. So I don't know. I think that in the end, if a team is really good and they have Kirby Smart and they have Ryan Day and they have Nick Saban, they're going to have a really tough place to play in a tough home field environment. I see Auburn on this list. When Auburn had, what was the guy's name? The potato guy from Brian Harsin from Boise State. And when they had Gus Malzahn, when he had Bo Nix, when Bo Nix was going brain dead half the time, was Auburn a tough place to play? No, not really. I think they just occasionally would have really good athletes and maybe upset people. So I don't know. So sorry to throw a whole wet blanket on EA Sports.
No, I get a lot of what you're saying. I've always looked at this, and especially when I see teams like Oklahoma at 11, like that is a place that has definitely expanded in recent years. It's definitely gotten to be a larger environment. Oklahoma was just really freaking good. Like, they ran through the Big 12 for the most part, for most of the 2010s and the early portion of the 2020s. Like, I don't think it's because Sooner fans were particularly loud. When you get 85 to 90,000 people, it's going to be loud almost all the same in a certain respect. But like, it's just because Oklahoma is good. Washington, it's a little bit different. Like, Washington is loud. They're normally good. Like, I know they played for a national championship a couple years ago, but that's a place that's because of the way it is. And then the next one right by it, Williams-Brice Stadium, it's not like the team is anything crazy all the time. It's because it's a lot of passionate fans who pack in. The one that I am a little bit like dumbfounded about is Indiana. Like, hold on, like that place is tough to play in, and I know they packed it in this past year. And again, these are the types of things that are very reactionary to results. But is it because I don't think people. I don't think if you asked an average college football fan, like, they know, where does Texas A&M play? Kyle Field. Where does Auburn play? You know, the Jordan-Hare Stadium. Where does, Penn State play? Beaver Stadium. Where does Indiana play? Oh, what do they call it? I don't think there are a lot of people who even know the name of Memorial Stadium as far as the Hoosiers go. And to see them on this list, yeah, you can be a little bit of a prisoner of the moment with what they did last year and just running through their schedule. But I don't know if that's an intimidating environment, especially compared to Utah. Like, for all the lack of drinking that crowd does, that is always praised as one of the most intimidating places to play in the entire country, especially at night. So,
well, and I think also there's this weird correlation with these sorts of lists when it comes to pageantry and just fans and fan bases that are big and synonymous with caring. Because like, why did Kansas State never make this list in the 90s or early 2000s when they were beating a lot of people with a lot more talent that were a lot more talented than them a lot of times in Manhattan, Kansas. And that oftentimes just got associated with the fact that Bill Snyder's a really good coach and is out coaching a lot of people. But why do they get no credit for their home field advantage where the South Carolina Gamecocks do? And I think it's just because for whatever reason, people associate these SEC schools and Big Ten schools with that their fan bases are probably a lot bigger, a lot louder, and care a lot more. And you'll meet a lot more of those fans in everyday life than you probably will a Kansas State Wildcat fan, where I think if you looked over the past 25, 26 years, Kansas State's probably had way bigger wins in their home stadium than South Carolina has. So
I always kind of like seeing Notre Dame down this list because like it's about an 84,000 seat stadium. It doesn't hold noise. It holds noise a little bit better. It basically kind of looks like Jones ATT Stadium if you really want to get down to it at this juncture.
Yeah, buried in the ground a little bit. I'll tell you when it's tough to win at Notre Dame, Joe. It's when you take Tyrone Swoops and Gerard Hurd in a team full of freshmen in freshman Malik Jefferson, who just graduated high school, as your best player. That's when it's tough to win at Notre Dame. So I think that has a lot more correlation with how many fans had 5 Michelob Ultras before the game.
I agree with that. And they do get some night games too. They get the NBC treatment because NBC's not going to put them at 2:30. That's where they have NBC 2:30. No, I'm mixing that up. It's CBS CBS has the day game. NBC has the night Big Ten game. So they do get some night games, whenever I guess they're on the road, the Irish on the road, NBC gets that pick. A little bit different. Going in the weeds on TV contract stuff, but DKR being a top 15 place, especially with Texas only losing one home game there in the past 3 years, and it was to a Georgia team that just had their number. It makes a little sense. It's the wine and cheese barbs can get lobbed, but when it's a big game, they get up for it. And
it's gotten to be a much better environment. I love going to games there way more now than I did when I was a kid. But hey, when it was that wine and cheese crowd from 04 to 09, Texas didn't lose very many games. That's because they were freaking rolling. They haven't lost many games the past 3 years. That's because they were 11-1, 11-1, and 9-3 in the regular season. And I think it just correlates way more to who's your coach and is your program humming than it is, are your fans standing up on the chair and banging the seat in front of them?
Tough place to play. Not a tough place to play, not a tough place to read. That's Inside Texas. So come join Inside Texas. Join for 50% off. Use the first link in our description. Use that QR code at the top left of the screen. Get the Ultimate Fan Bundle. That's Inside Texas. That's On 3. And that's Rivals. RT, thank you so much. Oh, did I get this to work? There we go. StreamYard, sometimes it's a little wonky. RT, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Reheat, the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel.